We've been visiting Switzerland with a series of programs, and now we're taking you to the southern part of the country where they speak Italian. We're visiting the town of Locarno. This is a very pretty little resort town along the shores of Lake Maggiore. Our main focus is the city of Locarno with its lovely streets and shops. We'll take you on some walks through the narrow pedestrian lanes of the old town, show you the market, the waterfront, and there's quite a bit to see outside the old town and the surrounding areas. So you're going to get an in-depth look at the region. We're going to take you over to Ascona, a little waterfront village. We'll take you on a couple of boat rides, and we'll also bring you up into the nearby valleys on a bus trip, and then we'll do some hiking through the little stone villages. A good place to begin our close look at the town of Locarno is at the old Piazza Grande, the center of town. And you can see the old town here has got an extensive arcade with lots of restaurants and ice cream shops, cafes, and little stores to poke around in. You can have some pizza, pasta, choose from a variety of delicious gelato flavors. The food's Italian, they speak Italian, and yet, yes, we're in Switzerland. The market sells all kinds of products, especially the local handmade crafted items. There's fabrics and products in wool, ceramics, and wooden objects. You can find some wonderful local foods at the market, like fresh cheese, eggs, fruits, and vegetables. And some of the vendors sell this secondhand merchandise, like old CDs and books, and even music tapes and clothing can be found here. It's all very down-to-earth, very local. These are casual, part-time vendors just selling their stuff. We noticed the paving in the piazza was smooth, water-worn stones in various colors. Really quite beautiful. Hotel del Angelo is a convenient place to stay right on the main piazza. We'll show more about that later. A posted map gives you an idea of how small the old town is. We're going to go explore it. There's a historic castle here, nearly 500 years old, and it houses the Archaeological Museum. We'll take you inside the Castle Museum coming up later in the program. And you'll notice the streets here are very narrow. There's no cars allowed in this part of the old town. It's strictly for pedestrians, which always makes it lovely for a stroll, very safe for the families, nice and quiet and peaceful here. Well, Locarno's old town goes for about 6 blocks by 4 blocks, so it's not really huge, but it's big enough to enjoy a nice stroll and have a poke around in the art galleries and look in some of the antique stores. Quite a few modern shop fronts along with the mix. To give you an idea of the scale and location of the old town, look at the map. It shows the overview of Locarno, and then the Piazza Grande, and just above it, those few streets, the pedestrian zone of the old town. You'll notice as you walk around these quiet lanes, there are not many tourists up here. It's mostly local people. It's just a few blocks off of the main piazza, but many visitors wouldn't even realize that this pedestrian zone is right next to the main square of town. So by all means, when you're in Locarno, go ahead, enjoy that Piazza Grande, and we'll show you the waterfront shortly and some other parts of town. But be sure to get up into these little lanes. It's so charming, and there's a few bars and cafes up here and the little shops, and it's a residential zone as well. It's a place where locals just spend some time a day chatting with their neighbors and generally just hanging out. It's kind of a simple place to enjoy the mundane aspects of living here. You'll feel part of the scene instead of being just a tourist. Those narrow lanes are just a short block over from the main piazza, so it's easy to just walk back and forth, go to one area and then come back down to the big square. You'll find the tourist information office on the Piazza Grande and a nice new modern building, and they've got plenty of maps and brochures and information for you inside. There's a map posted out front that shows the location of Locarno and Lake Maggiore. There are some nice boat rides you can take on Lake Maggiore. For example, if you're up early, you could catch a short ride leaving at 8 a.m. Let's show you a 30-minute round-trip ride over to the town of Maggiore, back and forth, crossing the northern tip of the lake, providing a nice view from the water looking back at Locarno. It's Lake Maggiore, which is really a huge lake. It goes for many miles right down into Italy. But in this case, you can just take a short boat ride if you choose. That just takes about 15-20 minutes to go across this little inlet of the lake. So that's what we did. It was curious though, it was so early in the morning that there was nobody else on the boat. It was like an 8 a.m. departure, and it had to leave anyway because they had to go across to the other side to pick up some passengers, and there you'll see some people were getting on. But it's kind of like reverse rush hour. Nobody's leaving the village at 8 a.m. except a few oddball tourists. From the lake, you have a nice view looking back at Locarno. There you can see how the village is just surrounded by the mountains. The snow-capped peaks in the distance and the valleys beyond. And just a small town, population about 10 to 15,000 here. Number of hotels along the waterfront and the residential homes up on the hill. Just crossing the lake over to the next village, and there we're going to pick up some local passengers. It's a mix of some students heading over to the university for their classes, some workers going into Locarno for the working day. Short stop and then we're on our way. We've just stopped at the small town of Maggiore, and it just takes 15 minutes to go from Locarno across to Maggiore, and then 15 minutes to go back to Locarno. However, there are some much longer boat rides that you could take on Lake Maggiore. You could go for 3.5 hours if you wanted to head on down to Isola Bella. That's down in the Italian part of Lake Maggiore, near the town of Stresa. As we'll show you in the map in a moment, it makes a very worthwhile day trip, which provides yet another reason for spending a few days in Locarno. There's a combined ticket where you can travel by train Locarno down to Stresa and enjoy time in that area, and then take the boat back up to Locarno. It's a full-day excursion. But now we're back in Locarno. It is a lakeside town after all, and it has a beautiful waterfront. There's a park and promenade and small boats and ferry boats and all kinds of nice sights to enjoy along the water's edge. Coming up in 5 minutes, we'll take you on another boat ride over to Ascona, a beautiful waterfront village. And then later we'll bring you up into the valleys and do a little hiking. It's an easy walk from the boat to the main square. Now we're going to take you on another extended walk in the pedestrian lanes of the old town, seeing some new sights. And the town is right across the street, so everything is very convenient here in the heart of Locarno. Right away, the pedestrian zone begins again, lined with those arcades, and that leads you back into the Piazza Grande. You'll always find yourself coming back to this main central square. And there are some smaller piazzas up on the side streets as well. You find yourself walking in circles here, but when you come to a spot from a different angle, it looks like a different street or a different restaurant. They have a Mediterranean climate here in the Ticino in the south part of Switzerland. Very pleasant temperature. You'll even find palm trees growing. They don't get any significant winter weather here. It doesn't get real cold. They might have the occasional dusting of snow, but that would be pretty unusual. The climate here is technically classified as humid subtropical, which might be kind of surprising to hear about Switzerland, but it is the southern sunny section. In fact, they have sunshine more than 56% of the time. So it's all really quite moderate, quite lovely temperature. Great place to come any time of the year. Next, we're going to experience firsthand some of the history of the area with a visit to the castle. Just a block beyond Piazza Grande, you get to Castello Visconteo, which is the Municipal and Archaeological Museum. There's the turreted tower and crenellated walls all around it. And we're going to have a look inside this castle. You pay your admission, and in this case the museum building is part of the historical exhibition because the building itself is as old as some of the contents on exhibit. It's the only museum you really need to see in Locarno. And they do have a nice little display with some ceramics and glasswares, as we'll show you. And they brought together some artifacts from the surrounding region. You've got the old columns and capitals and some architectural details. They were doing some restoration of a painting here. There are some original frescoes on the walls of this castle. This castle has an old, primitive feeling to it. You can almost imagine back in the day, 500 years ago, when there were some elegant banquets in these rooms, and they've done a very nice job of renovating the castle and installing some modern display cases with really excellent lighting. Some ancient Roman glass. You might be surprised that 2,000 years ago the Romans made some beautiful, delicate glassware. And even 3,000 years ago the Egyptians were making glassware. And there's some little signs that tell you and label the artifacts, tell you a little bit about the history. It even looks like there's a dungeon. There's some small rooms down in the basement. They might have locked somebody away. Right next to the museum, there's a highway underpass where they did some archaeological excavations. And they found some Roman artifacts on the site. That is a free attraction, just a couple blocks from Piazza Grande. Well, now we're getting hungry, so we tried Ristorante Sensi. It was only a block from our hotel, so very convenient and worked out really well. They had lovely pastas and salads and fish, chicken, meats, everything you could imagine on the menu. It's the beauty of eating in Ticino. You can have Italian cuisine and Swiss service. Note the arugula on top looks like a salad, but it's really a pasta dish with pesto and arugula and tomato and sliced Parmesan. Delicious. Hot right out of the kitchen. And they have a wide variety of other dishes, chicken, fish, and vegetarian items. Swiss produce a range of red and white wines of very high quality, even though they're not well known outside the country because the production amount is quite small. We're going to show you a lot more of Locarno at the end of this segment with a special 3-screen presentation that really packs in a lot of information for you. But first we're going off on several day trips out from Locarno. We're going to take you to the waterfront village of Ascona, and we'll take you up into the mountains for a trip to the nearby valleys. We've been visiting the city of Locarno in the south of Switzerland. And now we're going to take a little trip over to the nearby village of Ascona. Here too you can go by boat from Locarno, or you can just take the city bus. It only takes about 12 minutes on the city bus to head over here to Ascona. We'll show you on this map how easy it is to get over there by city bus. Then we'll take you walking through the narrow lanes of the small pedestrian center. And then getting back by boat on the lake is a nice alternative. We'll show you that boat ride at the end of the segment. When you get off the bus, it's quite easy to get your bearings. This is a small village, after all. Ascona only has a population of about 5,000 people and an area of about 2 square miles, so it's easy to get around. If you get disoriented, just ask someone for directions to the lake. It's a short walk. As you can see in the map, the central village area is only several hundred meters wide, but you'll discover many beautiful sights in this small area. It's really worth the trip over from Locarno. You'll probably be drawn first to that waterfront picturesque scene and row of restaurants and shops along Lake Maggiore, but you'll also find that those little pedestrian lanes just inland have great attractions. Shops, art galleries, more restaurants, and beautiful buildings. We'll show you both sides of town in our brief visit. You're going to see that this is a very pretty little village. It's another one of these picture postcards come to life, especially along the waterfront promenade with its row of outdoor restaurants and colorful facades. Very inviting to sit on the terrace, have a drink, relax, have a meal, and watch the people stroll by. Notice this outdoor canopy for an important football match at this lakeside bar that's getting ready for a big night with the games. Like Locarno, this town has an Italian feeling to it, even though we're still in Switzerland, the country's southern canton of the Ticino. There really is something very special about this kind of waterfront where you don't have any cars. You've got the lakeside and you've got beautiful buildings with the restaurants and a broad area for pedestrian promenade and trees and gardens. It seems so classic and typical in your imagination, the ideal waterfront village, but in reality, you just don't run into this all that often. There's normally a road and cars or something in the way of the view. Here, it's all laid out in a perfect setting. You can see how popular boating is here for fishing and pleasure craft and just cruising. For the visitor, it's all part of the picturesque scenery. You'll reach a landscape garden with flowers and a playground for the kids at the end of the promenade. After you've had a good look at the waterfront, perhaps you had a meal or a drink, then take a stroll inland to these pedestrian lanes just a block or two away. You can wander around here for another hour or two if you're going to do some shopping or have a drink or just do some sightseeing. It's big enough that you can get a little bit lost, but so small that you'll quickly find your way again. You're going to run into some friendly fellow visitors. People here are in a good mood. They're on holiday. Ascona is a popular destination for the Swiss. It's like their little Mediterranean seaside village. It's something rather exotic and different than you find in most of the rest of Switzerland, snow-covered mountains and all that. And it's really not that far away from the northern part of the country. You can drive down here or take the train and arrive within a few hours from much of Switzerland. It's an easier stretch than going on down to Italy and provides a lot of the same rewards, if not more so. Because the town is so small, you're going to find that these little back lanes are one of the main attractions. And we'll show you the distance on a map. If you were to walk around the entire little village, it's only 1 kilometer. And then if you got ambitious and wanted to walk the little side lanes, that's another kilometer. So you can walk through the entire village in just over 1 mile of walking. So it's an easy stroll. Of course, you'll want to spend time looking in the shops and have a coffee, maybe get a gelato, and just look around. You might often find in your travels that just this simple little aimless stroll is one of the most pleasurable activities. You certainly don't need a map here. Just follow your nose, take a left, take a right, and you might find yourself walking around in circles, but that's all part of the fun. Of course, a desirable setting like this has been occupied by people for a long time. The earliest archaeological remains go back to the late Bronze Age. There was a settlement here during the Roman time later on, and it was during the Middle Ages that the area got its name, Ascona, and it was always linked from that time on with nearby Locarno. Many of the locals, especially the older folks, don't speak the nation's two main languages, Swiss German or French. They just speak Italian. Now, they might speak a little English, especially people who are working in the shops and restaurants. They're going to speak some German and English and, of course, Italian, maybe a little French. Most Europeans who work in the travel industry are multilingual, and so you don't have any problems getting taken care of in the shops and restaurants, even in a little out-of-the-way village like this. It's a good time to brush up on your basic Italian, however, such as buongiorno and grazie, sì, prego, vino, pasta, basta, grazie, toilet, just for fun and show a little courtesy. You can see Ascona in a couple hours, but you might find this is a nice place to drop anchor for a few days. You could spend the night here in one of the 34 hotels and keep busy eating in the 63 restaurants. It had been sunnier a little earlier in the day, and then it was cloudy bright, and then we got some rain showers, so it was time for the umbrellas. But it's kind of nice though with these cobblestones. You get that glistening light reflected off the cobblestones, especially if we were here at twilight. That would really be magical. We tolerate the rain for a while and then it clears up. Temperatures are very pleasant here in the month of May. Fortunately, the climate in the south of Switzerland is considered subtropical, kind of like the shores of the Mediterranean. The weather can change pretty quickly here when you're near the mountains. We are right next to the Alps after all, and right on the shores of Lake Maggiore. One way to escape any bad weather is duck into a restaurant and have a nice meal, such as at Ristorante Cara. It serves Mediterranean cuisine in a refined setting and a varied menu. They make their own fresh pasta, Italian style. Remember, we're in Ticino, which is very much the Italian side of Switzerland. And so you'll find that most of the restaurants in Ascona feature Italian food. Of course, there's a variety of other sorts of fast food, delis, takeout counters, pizzeria, anything you want. While those little lanes are attractive and certainly worth your time, there is nothing like the waterfront promenade here at Ascona. That's what makes the place so very special. It was so easy getting here by city bus and inexpensive. Only took about 15 minutes and the buses are quite frequent. You could easily return to Locarno by bus. You already know where the bus stop is, but why not consider the other option? Looking at the signs and the boats and schedules, the bus stop is 5 blocks away and the boat dock is right in front of us. Luckily, our timing was perfect because it was arriving and we only had a few minutes to purchase our tickets, which we quickly did. You could buy an all-day Swiss boat pass for $20. Of course, they are very efficient and quickly selling you the right ticket one way back to Locarno. You can pay with cash or credit card, ask a few questions while you're at it, and then move along. If we miss this boat, we have to wait for another hour. So it would be a good idea to be aware of the boat schedule and adjust the timing of your visit accordingly. We got on the boat just in time for them to pull up the gangplank behind us and cast off. Suddenly we find ourselves on the boat, enjoying the view of the Ascona waterfront as we slip away. Alternatively, it would have been easy to walk up to the bus stop and ride back to Locarno that way, but this was a lot more fun. And it only takes 25 minutes by boat from Ascona around to Locarno. It's a non-stop ride and you'll discover it's quite scenic. And actually faster than the bus because there we were at the boat dock ready to go. The boat is comfortable. You can sit outdoors on the deck, especially in such nice weather. Yes, the rains have stopped. Or you can sit down below. Inside they've got a snack bar and not crowded because we're here in the month of May. Imagine in the summertime, the boat would probably fill up, but we're enjoying a lot of space here. How unusual, they have an 18-hole golf course in Ascona. A few years ago, it was voted the country's best golf course. You don't see that many golf courses anywhere in Europe as you're traveling around, nothing like in places like America. Elsewhere in the town, they've also got a miniature golf course and a couple of small museums and 11 historic sites in Ascona. The boat company is called Navigazione Lago Maggiore and operates cruises throughout this very large lake, most of which is in Italy. They also have cruises on Lake Garda and Lake Como, a whole series of operations you can pick from. You could easily build a rewarding vacation by cruising the lakes of southern Switzerland and northern Italy. We'll be taking you on another short cruise when we bring you down to nearby Lugano and take a boat ride to Gondria. That's in our other show about the Ticino, focusing more on Lugano. Locarno's a great home base for visiting the southern part of Switzerland. You've got excellent restaurants, a lot of shops, and excellent hotels to pick from. And it's a charming town, as we've been showing you, with its main piazza and the arcaded columns all around and the quiet little pedestrian streets in the back lanes. There's our lakeside Hotel Geranio, which worked out perfectly for us. It's only 1 block away from the train station, and it's right on the waterfront, a block away from the main part of central Locarno. Very nice and friendly people there too. As you get off the boat, you find you are right here in the center of town. Ciao, ciao.
Ciao, ciao.
So it's very easy to just walk across the street over to the main square, the Piazza Grande, and discover more about Locarno. Well, after resting up overnight and exploring a little bit of Locarno, it's up in the morning at our Hotel Geranio, and we're getting ready for another day trip excursion. We're going to take you out to see the valleys, the nearby valleys, and do a little hiking. But first, breakfast. Typical of European hotels, the breakfast is included in the price of your room. And it's quite a nice spread. There's breads and there's meats and cheeses and juice and cereals and fruits and all kinds of good stuff. It's always nice to get together with your fellow travelers in the morning and chew over last night and yesterday and the day's activities coming up. The hotel setting right on the waterfront provides a nice view for us in the morning. You could sit outdoors if you like, enjoy the terrace and the scenery, or just take your breakfast inside the dining room. Hopping on the bus, we're going off on an adventure this morning. We're going to take a bus ride up into one of the nearby valleys. Now, this is one of the great things to do while you're in Locarno, is to head into the mountains, and you can take your pick of several different deep valleys that go way into the Alps. We're driving up into the valley called Lake Maggiore and visiting the small village of Bignasco. Wonderful view of Bignasco here. It's a very picturesque spot. It looks like it's popped right out of a postcard with that old stone arched bridge. It's a little cloudy, a little overcast, but we really had some nice views and we were able to walk around in a couple of these little stone villages. The buildings are made from stone, which is quarried nearby. They've got lots of good quality stone for building available in these valleys, so usually architects, local builders take advantage of local materials. In this case, it's stone. And then going a little bit further, this was quite a day. Some of these stone villages were abandoned about 100 years ago when the region fell on economic hard times, and the residents, many of them, uprooted themselves and moved to California. And there they established a wine growing industry, and they started producing a wine that they called Italian Swiss Colony wine. Remember hearing about that? Italian Swiss Colony wine? Well, here's where the people originally came from. They're Swiss, but of Italian cultural ancestry in the sense that they speak Italian, and they formed a little colony in California. So a lot of these villages have got some empty homes, empty buildings, and yet the people who are living here today seem to be doing fine. They're in modern Switzerland after all, which has a very strong economy. There are some spectacular scenic highlights. There's waterfalls, and there's a beautiful river that goes right through the middle of this valley. We'll be doing some walking on the way back. We're taking the bus in, and then we're going to take some little strolls in a few more of these villages. Most of the buildings are occupied today, and they're quite nicely maintained, actually. They look so ancient. They kind of look like hobbit homes that have just grown up out of the earth. All of those natural stone building materials are very organic and functional and attractive. And you can stop for some refreshments at a couple of the villages as well. Here we took a little stroll, just walked for about a mile along the stream, and it was nice and level, very comfortable, through a pleasant forested valley. And then anytime you feel a little tired, you can just go back over to the road and catch the next bus coming by, which is what we did in a little while.
It's a very well-marked trail.
Back on the road, look for the bus stop, and you'll probably have to wait a little while. The buses are not too frequent here, usually once every hour, so you want to time your walk so that you're not waiting too long. And then it's about a 45-minute bus ride from Bignasco back into Locarno town. There's some other options while you're up here. You could change bus in Bignasco and go explore a different side valley. Up in Bavona Valley, you could visit the old town of Sonlerto, a little village. And if you feel like more hiking, you could walk from there back to Bignasco. It's about a 2-hour walk. But probably the route that we've just shown you is going to be perfectly satisfactory for most travelers. It'll take you about half a day. So this is only if you're spending more than one night in Locarno. If you have a few days relaxing in that charming lakeside city, this is certainly an activity you might enjoy. After the big day, we rest up overnight, and this time we're showing you the Hotel dell'Angelo, which is another place that we've stayed at in a different trip to Locarno. Really quite nice, located on the Piazza Grande in the center of town. And they put on a very good breakfast, as usual, with Swiss hotels. Typically, breakfast begins about 7 o'clock in the morning, and we get started our day's activities about 8:30, get an early start. And in this segment, we're going to take you out walking through Locarno town, especially show you some of those little back lanes. Starting out in the main square.
There's a morning market right next to the Piazza Grande. So that's kind of interesting to have a look at the foods they've got. And here's a fellow making some polenta. It's made from a cornflower.
Nice advantage of a hotel that's right on the main square. You can go for a morning walk, and right away you'll see some kind of activities. You'll probably see the beer truck. It's out there every day, carting away the empty kegs and bringing in the fresh ones.
Not too many things open at 7:30 or 8 o'clock in the morning. The bakery's opening up. There's a couple of coffee shops that are open. Of course, the stores are not open at that hour. They also have a casino. You could do a little bit of gambling.
Strolling along now in the Piazza Grande, it's really a marvelous urban setting with the arcaded sidewalks, and you've got restaurants that are indoors as well as outdoors and somewhat sheltered from the rain and the sun by the arcades, by the awnings and the roofs. A variety of stores along here. You've got a department store. You've got the restaurants, of course, and gelato. There's bars, cafes, clothing, a whole variety of merchandise for sale. In the German-speaking part of Switzerland, they might call it the Hauptmarkt. And in the French side on the west, this would be the Grand Place. But here, it's Piazza Grande. You see on the map in red the main square and those little lanes that extend out from it that we're walking on. And there's the train station and boat dock locations. We'll focus on the center of town now and take you on a stroll through the lanes. As happens so many times when visiting a place, you focus on the main square, the monuments, go to a museum perhaps, go down to the waterfront, and overlook the real heart and soul of the city, that local place where people stroll and hang out and shop and live. And this is very much the case here with Locarno. It's a lot of fun to just take a walk on these streets, and they're easy. They're not very steep. It's quiet. There's no cars. It's a small area. You really can't get lost. Just stroll around. You might find yourself walking in circles a little bit, but that's okay. You go up one lane and then back down the same lane in the other direction. It looks like a different place maybe. And you can easily find your way back to the main piazza anytime. Just head downhill. You'll notice it's also a prime shopping area. These are more stores for local people or for some discriminating visitors. They've got art galleries, there's antique shops, clothing stores, They even have some small hotels in the neighborhood. This antique store, Bellerio Antichità, has indoor and outdoor display areas. And not only do they sell works of art, but you can purchase furnishings. You can get cabinets and chests, tables and cupboards and chairs dating back hundreds of years and still functional. Open since 1956, it's worth going inside and wandering around. And of course, you'll always find the neighborhood cafés and bars and restaurants up here. You might get better prices than down on the main square.
They have a Mediterranean climate here in the Ticino in the south part of Switzerland. You'll even find palm trees growing. They don't get any significant winter weather here. It doesn't get real cold. They might have the occasional dusting of snow, but that would be pretty unusual. It's a very pleasant temperature.
You can see there are easily enough things to keep you busy in Locarno for several days. You don't want to just drop in for 1 hour and have a quick look at this town. It's worth exploring. In the midst of these narrow lanes, you do run into the occasional little piazza with the inevitable outdoor restaurant and fountain in the middle.
The Church of St. Francis is the oldest church in town. The choir and the cupola date from the 14th century, and the nave dates from 1528. So here we have a mix of the Gothic style and the early Renaissance. And next to the church is a former 13th century Franciscan monastery. Now, this church has got some Baroque side chapels and some very old fresco paintings that are barely visible on some of the walls. It's quite unusual to see such an old and Italian-style church in Switzerland. When you're in the north of Switzerland, you just don't see this kind of architecture.
Coming out of the church, heading back into the old lanes, you'll recognize that little piazza. The fountain surrounded by benches would make a good place to rest up. You probably realize that Locarno has got that small town feeling. Its population is only 16,000 people, which ranks it 74th in Switzerland in city size, so it's really just a small town, smaller than nearby Lugano, for example, and yet Locarno offers that full urban experience, but on a human scale. Back on the Piazza Grande, just a couple blocks away, there's some musical action and swing dancing happening at the outdoor restaurant. For thousands of years, people have been living here. During the Roman era, it's believed there was a small market center along the lake, and numerous buildings we see today are several centuries old, and yet all in very good condition, with that typical Swiss efficiency of maintenance and modernizing the interiors. What better way to finish our in-depth visit than with some more delicious pasta? We have a big series of movies about Switzerland taking you to most of the great places. We'll bring you to Lucerne and up to Mount Titlis, Mount Rigi, over to Interlaken, up to the Jungfrau. We'll see the Schilthorn, Lauterbrunnen Valley, Trummelbach Falls, Grindelwald, Bern. Then on to Zermatt, the Matterhorn. Yes, we'll have a look at the Gornergrat, up to Sunega, do some hiking, show you the village, then on down to Lugano and Locarno in the southern part of Switzerland, the Ticino. We also take you to the great